Welcome to the Engerati studio. We are located at Asian Utility Week and we have with us today Mr. Ming, and he is from Nari Technology.
Right.
Do you want to give us a bit of a background information on the company and what your company does?
Oh, Nari Technology is the #1 manufacturer for the power system equipment and the control system. So we cover the products from the generation, transmission, distribution, substation, almost the whole chain from the, but we are focused on the secondary equipment. That means we are not manufacturing generators and transformers. So we are focused on the control equipment and the systems.
Right.
So this company is a subsidiary of the State Grid Corporation of China, the SGCC. So
Interesting. Where is China with regards to smart grid development at the moment?
Yeah, I think the Chinese start the smart grid almost at the same time as the United States. So we started in the 2009, and in 2009 the SGCC set up the smart grid strategic targets for the almost from 29 to 2020. So it's a three-stage plan. From 2009 to 2010, we call it like a pilot study. And from 2011 to 2015, we call it the overall construction. And then from the 2016 to 2020, we call it like the improvement. So we want to make it more perfect. And also for this, since 2009 in China, the SGCC, at least the SGCC has spent about like $16 billion in this construction of the smart grid, include the construction and the research work. And also we have like 313 pilot projects since 2009. And by the end of 2013, we have like 286 completed already. And so this smart project, demonstration project, actually cover many fields, from the generation to the transmission, to the substation, to the distribution, and also to the consumption, ICT, the information communication technology, and also from the management and this for the planning things. So one big thing, I think, the big difference between the Chinese smart grid and the smart grid in other countries, I believe, is transmission. So most countries just focus on the distribution and the user, but we focus on the transmission side. So that's the reason we developed this ultra high voltage AC DC things. So that's the reason our smart grid also called strong and the smart grid, not just the smart. We have to call it strong because we need a strong infrastructure to support this smart grid in China. So,
That was going to be my next question. What is the main driver? What are the drivers for smart grid in the country?
Yeah, so I talk about the transmission. So that's just because we face some issues in the transmission side. So first is a fast growing load and the renewable energy. So like China in the past 20 years, the electricity consumption increased every year over like 5%. Last year it's 4%. It's the lowest among in these 20 years, but still very high comparing to the other countries. And also for the capacity for the wind, we already have like 96 gigawatt wind installed by the end of 2014, and 28 gigawatt solar in China by 2014. And our plan by the 2020, our wind power will be like 200 gigawatt, and our solar will be 100 gigawatt. So it's a very big amount. So
it's very attainable targets, do you think? Or do you think they're very ambitious?
It's ambitious, but I believe we can achieve it even early, because we grow very fast. So that's, I think, I remember a couple of years ago, our plan is like by 2020, the wind is 100 gigawatt. But now we already achieved this goal. So that's really.
What do you think that is? How are you reaching? How is the country reaching these targets?
Because we are a big country, and so that's another driver. Because we promised that we will reduce our carbon emission by like 40 to 45% by 2020, comparing to the 2005.
Right.
And also have our, like by 2020, 15% our energy will come from the non-fossil resource. Clean sources. So that's a big challenge. That's the reason we need to expand our target for the future wind and the solar things. So I think these two are the driver for the transmission side. And for the distribution side, we have the same issue because in China, our distribution system is not as reliable or efficient as the developed countries. So we do see the need to improve our distribution. And also we have like the pressure to integrate to the PVs. And also we have very ambitious target for the EV, electric vehicle. So our plan is by 2020, we will have like 5 million electric vehicles run in the Chinese road. So it's a very big challenge for the system. So so we need the grid smart enough to cooperate or to tackle these things.
Absolutely.
So that's the reason.
What have been the main challenges of setting up this smart grid in the country? And how have these been overcome?
The challenges is a kind of because we start from 2009, same as the United States. So at that time, we actually don't know what smart grid is. So that means we do not have a clear definition of what smart grid is. And also another issue, I think, is the standard. So at that time, we don't know how to work on the smart grid because we don't have the standards. And then the last things I think it's we do not have the equipment and the technology we needed for the smart grid. So that's the reason for the SGCC in 2009 we actually worked with our stakeholders to develop this kind of we call the strategic targets. So this one actually covers what we need to do for this smart grid in the whole chain of the power industry. From the generation, what we need to do, from the transmission, need to do, from substation, what we need to do, and from the distribution, from ICT, and from dispatching, all things we define what we need to do. And also at the same time, like 1 year later in 2010, we actually issued a document called the Smart Grid Technical Standard Framework. So it's in 2010 we issued this framework. And so in that one we defined that we need 92 standard series for the smart grid. And so far by the end of 2013, for the state grid itself, it has developed like 220 standards for smart grid. And about 97 industry standard, because not only in China, not only state grid, we have some other power companies. So we have 97 industry standard and about 40 national standard. And also we worked closely with IEC and IEE, develop the international standard. There are about 14 such kind of standard. For the equipment, the same thing. We like, in that plan, we say we need like about 152 equipments for the smart grid. So then we are trying to work on this equipment. So by the end of 2013, we have about 116 equipment already manufactured and already applied in our demonstration projects. So that means we are working very hard, but we're also working very great in this kind of planning things and the standard things and also this equipment development things. So,
Well, I think you've touched on the opportunities in this particular fast-growing industry. And what's in it for the customer?
I believe, I know this question is kind of difficult to answer, but I believe actually smart grid, it covers the whole chain of the power industry from generation to the consumption, and also includes some other field like the IT, communication, control. So I think it provides actually the opportunities for all kinds of companies. If everybody can find something from this smart grid, right? So that's the reason I believe that the smart grid will not only benefit the utility company, it will also promote the economic development for the lower chain and upper chain of the power industry. So based on the estimation by the state grid in 2011, it's kind of old, but that's the only thing I can find. So from 2011 to 2015, the state grid planned to invest like 40 billion in the smart grid, and which may lead to the total increase in GDP in about like $160, and also it will lead to like 1 million additional jobs in China.
Yeah.
So that's a great opportunity, huge benefits.
It's a win-win situation all around.
Yeah, I believe we are closing to that goal.
Definitely, it sounds like it.
Right.
What does your firm have to achieve at the Utility Week event?
What do you mean?
What do you hope to achieve here? Why are you here? And,
for this for waste meeting? Okay, so this one definitely I want to know some friends here because about 2,000 people here. So I know friends, and also I want to let people know what China and Nari technology are doing on this smart grid.
Right.
And also want to know what actually utility need for the smart grid.
Yeah.
Definitely the final goal is to find some opportunity for the future cooperation.
Absolutely. And as you walk away from the event tomorrow, what would be your final piece of advice for other utilities who are perhaps starting up smart grid deployment?
Smart grid, I always say that for the smart grid, it's not just the technical thing, it's not just the technology. So I will always say if you raise something, we can solve it very quickly in technology.
Yeah.
In my mind, the smart grid actually is more policy and the market thing. So without support from the policy, from government, or without a good market mechanism, so you cannot fulfill your goal for the smart grid.
Yeah.
Like integration of the renewable energy, you need incentive, right?
Yeah.
For the demand response, you need to have price market for the customer, and also for the EV integration, you also need some incentive from the government. So my suggestion for the power industry is when you work on the smart grid, you need to work closely with the government and the policymaker to make sure they can support your smart grid in policy and market mechanism. And the same thing for the investor. So when you try to invest on smart grid projects, pay attention not only on the maturity of the technology, you also need to pay more attention on whether this one has the policy support and the market mechanism support. Otherwise, you cannot make money from the projects.
Sound piece of advice there.
Yeah, so that's my thinking.
Right.
So like the smart grid right now, a lot of demonstration projects, but once you want to extend it to a wide area and a wide scale, so you must be the cost effective. Then you need the policy and the market to support it. So that's the problem.
Because I reckon a lot of money and time can be wasted on unnecessary projects.
For demonstration, you can pay this money, but later you need to pay back.
Exactly.
Right.
That's all the time that we have. Unfortunately, I could talk for another hour at least, but unfortunately, this is all the time we have. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much.
I hope the event is a successful one for you and that you enjoy the rest of it.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you very much for joining us. Please do have a look at the other video links. There are interviews with other utilities and vendors, so do go and enjoy those.